All right, so in our Canvas module, we are at Illustrator Basics. You'll notice that I've got each day laid out for you. So go ahead and when you have day 2 open, that's when I suggest having your your Illustrator and your Canvas tiled next to each other. So my in-person people will do that as soon as we begin today. E-learners, you'll be taking care of that as we go. So I just click on the little icon that says instructions, or next to it that says preview the document, because this will be exactly how you don't download it to your computer. Don't waste space. It'll be quicker. Now, once you have it open, you're going to notice the first step here is to open Adobe Illustrator and create a new file in letter size. We know from our last project that a letter size document is a computer paper size. In Illustrator, for me, it's right here because it's recent for me. For you, it may not be. So you're going to go to Create New. And under Print, because we know letter is meant to be print out, you'll find Letter. And you double click to create. So the tools that we're going to look at today are the control bar, the line tool, and the stroke options. We've covered stroke a little bit, but we haven't really looked into the options that we can create from it. You're also going to notice that I probably have more on my screen than you do, because Illustrator likes to load with the Essentials workspace. This workspace is a lot trickier to work with. I don't like it. I strongly suggest that you don't like it either. You're going to go to Essentials Classic in order to get all those options that are missing back. They are advanced options, but they're going to be the options that we are using for this. So starting off with our line tool isn't even visible in Essentials. So there's like another screen you have to go through, but it's right here in Essentials Classic. You may see that if you're in just one column, that it's further down. I have it expanded out to 2. So I choose my line tool, and the task is to draw a 20-point thick by 7 centimeter long line. So I hold down the Shift key to keep my line straight as I'm going. You'll see that that little number underneath your, or in that gray box, it turns to 0 degrees when it's a perfectly straight line. But I can also create perfect angles by using the Shift key while I rotate. So I've dragged that out. Now I have no way of knowing how that's 7 centimeters yet. We'll come back to that. Our stroke is going to be the easiest option to change. You're familiar with that potentially from Photopea. So I go in where it says 1, and I'm going to type 20 and hit enter, and it makes my stroke thicker. Now, when I want to create a specific length, I'm going to go into my transform panel, and this would be in my control bar on the top of the screen. Here you'll notice that it has different settings. The X value, think of it like math, like the rise over run in a grid. X and Y determine the location that you begin at, whereas W and H determine the length of your thing. So mine, it says 238 points wide right now. What I'm going to do is highlight everything here, and I'm going to type in 7 centimeters, enter, and that will automatically update the length of the line, and it'll put it into the correct measurement. You could also do this for inches, for feet, 12 inches, for example, and we see that it's larger than a piece of paper that would print. Whatever measurement it is, it will auto update for you. So I put it back to 7 centimeters. You can also, if you're ever missing an option, and sometimes it's easy to like drag something out by accident or whatever, if you go under Window, you can typically find it. So I could find my stroke options right through window, window stroke. Next, a diagonal dotted line. So making sure that we go diagonal with it, and I can hold shift to get a perfect 45-degree angle. So there's a little trick with this. Now we have our stroke set to 20 points. Keep that in mind as we're going. When you are all set, you have your diagonal line, you're going to go into the stroke menu here, and you'll notice number 1, it says to change the cap. So right now I'm zooming in on the cap, it's just a harsh edge, but when I change it to the middle option here, you'll notice I get a round edge. There's also a projecting harsh edge that you could use in some instances, but one thing at a time. So we have our round cap. Now it says to select the dashed line. And for me, it auto-filled in the values that I used last. What this controls is a dash, so how wide your dash is. Now you could do something if you wanted to make it like dashed, like a line to cut along, a value like 12 with quite a bit of space in between them would give you a dashed line like such. We have a 20-point stroke, remember. So I had to create a gap that was at least 20 in order to see the space in between. For our project requirements, it says a 0-point dash, which will create a perfect circle, and a 6-point gap. But you'll notice that this creates this effect on it based on your stroke size. So I'll let you figure out how to work around that. Even when it's smaller, I still get this effect. So remember what your gap size is versus your stroke size. You're going to want it to be fully dashed as it is in the example at the bottom of the Canvas module. Lastly, on your own, after you finish troubleshooting how to create the perfect dashed circle line, you're going to draw 3 more lines. Those are using some of the other features in our menu. So for number 1, we're talking about arrowheads. So I'm going to go in, I create a line, and I notice that it still has all those settings applied from the last one. I'll turn those off. And my arrowheads are selectable right over here. You can choose whatever you'd like. You can also adjust the size of it if you wanted it to be smaller, larger. And if you wanted both of those values to decrease at the same time, you could click on the link button. Lots of different options within arrowheads. Now, I also want you to experiment with the uniform feature, which controls how the line, how it moves on, the width and the thickness as it moves. So it's uniform right now, as in it's staying the same width all the way throughout. But if I change this setting, and I'm going to turn my stroke up first so that you can really see it. If I change this setting to any of my other options, it starts to create shapes for me. So I want you to get 2 different lines all set with that uniform feature. And if you finish with that early, you can experiment with the pen tool, just like we did in Photopea. Works pretty much the same way, and you can see how to modify those settings on your pen tool created shapes. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right, you are good to go.